We're
Bye.
moving on to our next panel. It's going to be dealing with corporate collaboration with spin-offs and startups, a topic which is especially dear to me as well, since we have been promoting these corporate startup collaborations since we founded Broadcasting back in 2014. And we have Karina Margreiter with us, who will be leading and moderating this panel. Amazing woman who is really rocking the entrepreneurship and innovation space in Austria in her new role. Now, Karina, very welcome and thank you for leading the next panel.
Thank you, Dejan, and also for your warm welcome. I'm really honored to be here today and to discuss with you the panel Corporate Collaboration with Startups and Spin-offs. So my name is Karina Margreiter. I'm actually very new, the head of entrepreneurship and creative industries at Austria Wirtschaftsservice, short AWS, not to, I don't know, confuse it with Amazon Web Services. No, we're the Federal Promotional Bank of Austria. We have a lot of different programs to support startups, be it with grants, with loans, with guarantees whatsoever, but also big corporates. And one big part of us is also our network or matchmaking services, but I will tell you later more about it. As I said, we have really exciting guests, and I would like to welcome Diplom-Ingenieur Georg List, MBA. We joked about it that I really have to say all the academic titles. No, I'm just joking. Hi, Georg, welcome on stage.
Then Thank you, Karina.
Have Clemens Müller from Erste Bank und Sparkasse.
Hello, hi.
And we have Daniela Pack-Graf from Merkur Innovation Lab.
Hi.
So, hello, everyone. I guess we should start by a short introduction. So maybe, Daniela, you just want to start with yourself. Who are you? What are you doing? The stage is yours. Thanks.
Thank you. It's always women first.
That's true. Hopefully, it should be women first.
Okay, my name is Daniela Pack-Graf, and I'm, as Karina said, the Managing Director of Merkur Innovation Lab. That's Merkur Versicherung's own corporate spin-off, which was founded in 2020. So right now we are struggling with the same perceived opinions against new ideas and innovations as some of the startups and spin-offs. So I can understand all of you. Apart from having a passion for data analytics, machine learning, and innovation in general, I am holding a master's degree in applied mathematics, as well as a postgraduate education in insurance mathematics. Yeah.
Well, like it's nothing. Wow.
And what is Merkur Innovation Lab doing? Because that's much more interesting than myself. We are trying to turn data into business value by building an innovative data science team. And there we are testing the latest use cases and technologies and trying to transform data in tangible business benefit. And in doing this, we are leveraging the positive effect of working together and partnering up with universities, competence centers, startups, and spin-offs, because we have the opinion then that it's a good way to innovate and to innovate new business models by learning from young, innovative minds. And these come from universities or spin-offs.
Right. Thank you so much. Georg, do you want to go on? Please introduce yourself to the audience we have here today.
Right. Thank you, Karina. Georg here. I work with a company called AVL, close by to Vienna. It's in Graz. We're in automotive engineering, in testing, and in simulation. And at AVL, I've worked for the last 10 years at AVL. Before that, I was 13 years in the Netherlands, and that's why I'm always laughing about the titles, Karina. Nobody uses any titles in the Netherlands. Anyways, so I'm responsible for corporate strategy at AVL. And besides that, I initiated our startup accelerator or startup initiative Creators Expedition some 6 years ago or so. And next to corporate strategy, I'm also responsible for the testing of ADAS and AD, so autonomous driving, and for our research and technology, where we do a lot of collaborative research. So I guess the Creators Expedition is also why I'm joining today, is how we work with startups, spin-offs, and universities.
Great. Thank you, Georg. And then we have Clemens. Please say a few words to yourself and to your organization.
Yeah, thank you, Karina. Hello, everybody. Clemens. I'm working for George Labs, which is the R&D hub of Erste Group and Erste Bank and Sparkassen. Our mandate is more or less to drive innovation, digitalization in the banking industry. Certainly one of the, would say, most disrupted industries when it comes to new offerings by new entrants, be it a spin-off, be it a startup, a fintech in that sector. Within that innovation hub, I'm taking care of the business banking or corporate banking capital market products. So this is the target segments I look at, and I try to come up to new solutions for exactly these kind of target groups. And in addition, certainly, I'm heavily working on with ecosystem partners, identifying who could be a partner for us, how could that work, the partnership, and how we can create together better value for our clients. And I think it's also a good fit for today's discussion.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so all of you are collaborating with startups already, which is great because, yeah, you're great corporates. Maybe we can go into a little bit more details. So, like, how are you collaborating with startups and spin-offs already? Maybe we start with you, Clemens. Like, can you tell us a little bit more? Is it structured, unstructured? Do you have an accelerator model that the audience understands how you work with startups and spin-offs?
Yeah. So first of all, we don't have an accelerator like many other banks have in the market. So we are more or less define areas which we are of interest in, specific areas, for example, most of them where we see, for example, we see business potential or we see a good strategic fit to us. Then we definitely evaluate the market. I think we have a good network also in the market where we have a close to what's going on with that. And then we start most likely directed discussions with them. Yeah. We also very much teamed up with Speed Invest. I think is a well-known also in seed investor, which also has a very good market overview. And together we try to sound the market for that, what is of strategic interest for us. Yeah. And then if there is something that potentially fit, then we do it case by case and see what does it make sense. Sometimes only a sales partnership is good enough, right? Sometimes a deeper integration, sometimes even a participation. Yeah, so this is the tool you need to take depends on very much on what you want to achieve together and what is also good for the spin-off or the company or the corporate itself and the fintech itself, right? Sometimes it's even not too good if the big corporate takes already too much at the beginning, yeah. And just it's maybe better to leave them a little bit aside because you see the potential, let them develop and foster later a deeper integration or something else. So very much depends on a strategic target which we have defined for us. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Georg, how is it on your side? Like the Creators Expedition, I know it already, but I have the feeling it's a little bit different than what Clemens told us. So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on that.
Yeah, would love to. Thank you, Karina. So indeed, Creators Expedition is a little different. Strategically, we started, as I said, about 5-6 years ago, if I recall correctly. And it is that a lot of the growth areas that we're in really require partnering. Multitude of technologies and a very fast-moving technology space. And there you work in ecosystems, you work with partners, you work even in co-opetition and frenemies and so on. All the good stuff that we see today on the technology side. What we wanted to do, we've always worked with inventors. Startups are really in certain areas have taken on a role, bringing ideas in technologies, innovations much further and in a much more structured way than it used to be. And so we wanted to be good at this, working together with startups and created this team and the initiative process and the decision making, etc. around it. yeah, the areas where we focus this mostly on is, I think the highest starting point, or the highest wave, was in electrification to start with, but similarly in AI and data analytics, sensoric, which is very important for us. And I'm forgetting one, is so ADAS, probably. Yeah. These are areas where there is a startup community, where there are markets, where there is a lot of interest, and there is a good also symbiotic kind of relationship between corporates and startups. And that's why we did it, or why we started it. And then Creators Expedition is to a certain extent designed to teach our people how to work with startups, and to a certain extent, created to ensure that we work efficiently with startups. That is not always easy. Maybe to give you a few numbers, if I recall roughly, I think we've had contact with about 900 startups. We've probably done projects. So what we usually do is we kind of, it's not in a structured way, hey, we invest or we do a project. We start to explore common interests. Then one of our businesses takes a particular interest and says, yes, these people I want to work with. I see that technology as something that I want in my product or in my offering, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's, when we have a champion inside AVL and we have a startup, then we start a project, and eventually totally open outcome. We may become their customer. I think that's actually the probably most prevalent outcome. We may take their technology to market within our products or adjacent to our products. Or we've even had, I think we have had also a startup where they became our customer. So very open. We've also invested in, but only one out of probably 1 or 2 out of 50. So it's not really we're not. This is not a startup fund, if you will. It's really working together for mutual benefit.
Okay. Great. But it sounds structured already. Like, you have the processes in place,
Yeah.
that there needs to be commitment from the C-level
Yes.
or from the business units, which I think is important for the startups, because they need, I don't know, a reply sooner than later. It's always better for the startups or spin-offs. But Daniela, how is it on your side? I guess you were just founded recently, if I remember correctly. Tell us a little bit more about your collaboration.
We are right at the beginning of the journey of startup collaboration. Merkur Versicherung has been working with startups for the past 10 years, mainly in the field of IT, in the IT sector, but mainly in a customer-supplier relationship. Startups were not seen as partners for co-development or for developing new business ideas. And this has come recently with the foundation of Merkur Innovation Lab. And since the Innovation Lab was founded at the end of last year, we are approached by startups a lot more, really a lot of startups, which is quite interesting. We are gaining a lot of new insights, and we see that it's not always the old school way of working together as customer or supplier or an investment. Sometimes it's adding value by exchanging ideas or working together on new ideas, such as AVL is doing. Developing new technologies and products for our customers. We're now seeing it more like a strategic partnership for the future.
Okay. That sounds interesting. So since you're all collaborating with startups already, like, what are your learnings or results? I mean, I guess at AVL there was maybe there were some cultural clashes, because I guess a corporate culture is different than a startup culture. But maybe you can just share some insights, whoever wants to go first. Like, what did it bring ultimately to collaborate with startups or spin-offs?
Yeah, I can start. So from the learnings, so the issue was not so much a clash in corporate culture versus startup culture. I think the agility of startups, in the very positive sense, but also in a not so positive sense, is something that you need to get used to, and that where especially having a team, that takes care of kind of the interface is quite important. So on the positive side, a startup can decide on its business model and on where to go, kind of on the spot. Whereas if we start a project, it can also be that, whoops, the business model changed, so we kind of have a bit of an issue with the project, or there's changing priorities, and then on the corporate side, you have a team that's kind of dedicated or part dedicated and needs to kind of deliver something. So you have a bit of a stretch to bridge there, and then it's good to have a team, and then it's good to have a good understanding of how to do such kind of projects, and leave the flexibility to both sides to arrange. What else? I guess what we've also learned in the beginning, we overdid it a little bit on the senior engagement. Yeah, so we had everybody was interested, and we had presentations, and the startups could show what they have, and the exposure is great, right? The exposure is for the startup, and having senior people look at it, and who have an experience in different markets can also advise, etc., etc. But then on the other hand, that attention also fizzles out a little bit. So you have to put it in the right doses. Yeah. So we adjusted the doses not to have too big interventions in the beginning, but have regular exchanges, so that startup and senior management and corporate can adjust.
Yeah. Okay.
And adjust to each other. Yeah. One thing also that we learned is, when you work together and come up with good joint stuff, and then a startup gets sold, gets flipped, gets whatever. Then a lot of stuff goes down the drain. So that's also painful realization sometimes. Yeah, not fortunately it didn't happen so often, but sometimes it does, and then you're gonna go, oops, have to strike this one off the list here.
Yeah, sounds like it. Clemens, do you have a different approach on that, or what were your learnings? Are you individually? Can you decide on your own, or is there also involvement?
I was smiling when Georg said the overdoing on the C-level. Certainly, also this was something what we observed in our house. There was a joint interest from the C-level as well, just to get the fresh-minded people thinking, the imagination of thinking completely out of the box, coming with solutions we never thought of. Then we all learned the idea is the one thing, and then bringing on the road and executing is the other thing. Yeah. So I think we see a lot of ideas, pitch decks every day, actually, every day, a lot. Most of them in somehow early phase, but when you then fine tune on it, and when you start, okay, how can this now really work? How can this be integrated also with a bank? It's a very difficult back-end systems from the technology point of view. Yeah, how this is the impact on the existing customers. I think we need to also to take into consideration that all Merkur, AVL, and Erste are well-established corporates with a huge customer base already in the market, right? So there's a reputation, there's a trust related to it, yeah. So that brings in already some complexity to all of that point. And then when you see there are the good startups, and maybe the one who tried really hard and want to get in that direction, the other ones who maybe were half motivated, maybe a little bit overstretched now, but in that direction, okay, not completely convincing till the very last they want to do that. Yeah. So very important is that you have the right attitude and the right people on the startup side. Yeah, they also understand this. Yeah, I think this is very important on that side. What we also learned is it must be clear from the very beginning the value for each of the participants. So what is the value for the startup cooperating with us? What is the value for us? Clearly spoken out. What is the value for our clients? So that is the triangle normally. What we look at. This must be clarified normally rather sooner than later. Also that there's nobody's disappointed at the end of the day. Yeah. And at the end, what we also believe is there's very often the startups we work with is still a lot of things need to be invested to bring it to a final product which can be launched. Be it not only on the regulatory legal side, which is maybe specific to the banking industry, but also to the, for example, reliability or the functionality of a product. So really, a lot of startups maybe did some small proof of concept already, proof of value with a good start, first client base, which is good, starting point. But then to take the proof that this is the value for even more clients, this is another big challenge. So I think we are all still in the learning phase. So this started, this whole ecosystem thinking started some years ago, get more and more accelerated, but I think the next years will show then what is really the best setup and how this can really work at the end of the day. So I think we're all still in the learning phase to get the maximum out of it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I have the feeling that in the last couple of years, Austria became more professional regarding startup corporate collaboration, and there were so many corporate accelerators coming up. And due to COVID, or I don't know, maybe because I changed position, I felt like, okay, it's a little bit stopping, but I guess now it's the phase where it will just be selected, which ones do want to really collaborate with startups and corporates and with startups and spin-offs, and which ones just did it maybe for marketing purposes, which is not bad ultimately when you set the expectations right with the startup from the beginning, like you said, Clemens. I think that's really important. Daniela, how is it on your side? Can you already say that after 1 year?
What we learned is define your strategy before working together with a startup. That's one of our big learnings, and you need a shared vision and a shared goal, because if not, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of time for C-level, and it's a waste of time for the startups as well, because it's a lot of work to incorporate startup ideas in the corporate world. You need the right people. You need the people who want to work with startups. You have to find a common language. It's a bit of another culture concerning agile work, flexibility, thinking outside the box. For startups, it's sometimes okay to fail. For corporates with an old reputation, not so much. So I think it's about understanding each other and learning from each other.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I really had to laugh a little bit when you all said that the commitment of the C-level was maybe a little bit too much, because in all the books or in all the theses I read, it was always like you have to have the commitment from the C-level, which is good. But maybe if it's too much, then it can also maybe slow down processes. So did you already experience, because I think Austrian startups, they're thinking quite globally, because Austria is a small market and they have to internationalize rather quickly than later. And there are so many corporate accelerators like worldwide, and they can apply to it, and there are different structures. Have you realized, or actually, because you said that a lot of startups are contacting you, that there is actually global competition also from working together with startups? Maybe Daniela, you want to share?
Yes. Yes, it's you're right. There is a lot of competition in the startup world too. But what we've seen and what was very interesting for Merkur Versicherung as we've never looked quite deep in the startup world, that Graz and Styria especially is quite an interesting startup hub. So all the startups we're working right now together are from Styria or Austria. We don't have to look further.
Okay, wow, that's a message. Georg, do you agree with Daniela?
Yeah, I guess in our industry that's a little bit different. I was looking that up. So from the 900 we were in contact with, the highest number actually come from Israel, who have interest in us, so we have interest in them. The second is the Germany and the DACH region, so Austria, Switzerland, and so on. Third, US, and then very quickly you have like India. So we have a big presence in India, and also we have a good connection to the startup world there. Italy, great. Spain, great. But the automotive industry isn't really one that looks at borders, and so you need to be. And this is also important, right? You need to build an ecosystem that is attractive for global startups that have to find you, and you also have to look globally for the things that interest you. Yeah.
Clemens, as a bank, how is it?
First of all, we also want to team up with startups who are interested to work for us on a group level, so in Central Eastern Europe. So we're not looking for a solution which is only for Austria or Styria or Graz valid. So really, what is the more clients we can achieve with, the more relevance it gets for us on the one side, and on the other side, there is definitely a competition within the fintech space. I think you don't find very rare, or you find only very rarely something which you have not seen before, right? So the ideas are covered most likely, or the use cases by many startups already. And then you always need to investigate and go into the details to really understand the quality behind it. What is the magic behind it? Because on the first look, many value propositions look like magic, but at the second look, you realize it's not so much magic anymore. And at the third look, you realize it's okay, this is what I do, just a little bit more beautiful. So it's really to understand, okay, what is really the value of it? Yeah? And this is when I differentiate. So there's a competition, what you see in the startup space. Also, what we are in contact with, definitely the majority is not coming out of Austria. DACH region is one of the key drivers on our side, yes. Overall Europe as well, but also North America, particularly United States, had a lot of things coming from the fintech space, which are of interest of us, but also Israel. Yeah, interesting enough, it's not a big country, but apparently quite active on that, not only in the car industry, but also in the banking industry. Yeah.
Yeah, Israel is definitely a startup nation, I would say. Also the setup. It's really cool to see how many startups they just found the startups, and then they think about internationalization rather quickly, which I guess is a must. Yeah. All right. So we are actually also at the Spin-off conference. So let's talk a little bit more about spin-offs. Have you ever collaborated with a spin-off? And if not, why not? Georg.
Yeah, several, and it's look, we do a lot of collaborative research. So everything that is research, close to research, or that takes technology levels that are not that high yet, is okay with us, and we know how to deal with it. It's a different type of collaboration, because you. In order to show that there will be something that is market ready, you usually have to do a little extra step. But other than kind of collaboration, I found.
Clemens, I guess rather not, because you said an idea is nice, but you have to have something more. Like, how is it that you collaborate with spin-offs?
This is also a little bit industry specific, I guess, because in the car industry, Georg most likely is the proud owner of a lot of patents, which we don't have in the financial industry that much, right? So for us, it's a service industry at the end of the day, so not too much based on technology. It gets more and more, but in the past it was not so much of relevance, right? So having an idea from a university and getting into a spin-off it takes a lot of time that this is then ready for the market to launch and to bring it to the clients. So this is certainly what is not in key focus.
Daniela, how is it on your side?
Yeah.
Or Georg, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to react because it is indeed quite different, right? If you look at technology and collaborations with the technical universities and spin-offs, there is the technology already proven out to a certain extent. You have MVPs, you have POCs, and you have quite experienced people. Now they may not know the market, but that's what we are for then, and that combination works okay. So a little bit more to tune and a little bit more to shape, but it's not so different from other startups, I would say, on the technology side for us. Sorry, Daniela.
No, it's good.
Didn't want to interfere.
No problem. Yeah, at Merkur, you have to distinguish between Merkur Versicherung. Merkur Versicherung is really working more with later stage startups with a solid business plan, solid product. And then there is Merkur Innovation Lab, and we are here for doing R&D. We were founded to be able to do R&D with spin-offs, with universities, with students, mainly in the field of AI, machine learning. So yes, we would like to work with spin-offs and universities ideas. It mustn't be a spin-off. Sometimes it's only 3 students. It's also okay with us, but it's mainly the goal of Innovation Lab and not so much Merkur Versicherung.
Okay, that's interesting because, when you compare Austria's spendings in R&D and research and development, it's a lot in the GDP factor, but according to some reports, there are not so many spin-offs then created out of the university compared to other European countries. So do you think that there is maybe a way how we could enhance that, A, and B, how to even better facilitate collaboration between spin-offs and corporates?
But isn't that also not connected to industries or universities which are very research driven, and a lot of pre-investments on this research needs to be done? I think a good example is always the medical sector, the medical industry, right? Where a lot of very expensive research needs to be done, or what is in German like Grundlagenforschung. On top of that, you can build in additional ideas. And then when it comes close to a market launch, then a spin-off pays off. I think for that, at least makes for me sense, similar to the technology sector, what Georg just said, also like on the collaboration with TU Wien or TU Graz, for example. On the economic side, or with a business school, so it's a little bit more difficult, I think, on that side from the background also.
Yeah, I guess, studying business myself, it's really interesting to see how universities are tackling that. Or we worked a lot together with corporates to solve some challenges, and it was more like hackathons and stuff, what we did with the university. But it's just interesting, and I hope that we can ensure more students or young people to found our company and to make use of the universities. So,
Karina, sorry that I interrupt again.
No,
terrible.
please,
But I find it interesting because the number you mentioned, the numbers you mentioned are really flying in the face of my experience here. Because we work with the TU. There's quite a few kind of spin-off facilities around, also the MedUni. Most of the professors, I teach at the university here. Most of the professors have 1 or 2 or 3 spin-offs and startups that they work with. So I don't get the impression, now you have the number, but I don't get the impression that we're so far behind on the spin-off side. Maybe it's how we count them or how they are accounted for. Here, that seems. So the number of spin-offs doesn't seem to be the problem. It's to find the right ones to work with. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Maybe we have to look closer, or maybe we have to check out how studies are made. Yeah. All right. Okay. So we have 3 minutes left. I would really like to ask you to tell all the people who are here today with us how they can approach you, because I got that question already in the chat. And maybe also conclude with a final message from your side about startup, corporate, and spin-off collaboration. Let's start with Clemens and not with Daniela. Then ladies last now.
Well, approaching us, best is use my contact details. I'm not sure if they will share it afterwards or via LinkedIn or all of that. Just feel free to approach us, share with us. So what is your idea, or what is your company, your spin-off, your startup about? If you have already some first tangible material, even better, share this with us. Normally we try to come back in a good, reasonable time, meaning within days. Then we give you feedback if you're interested in it or not. Just to explain a little bit also the process on that again. If there is an interest seen on our side, we would then get to know each other, where we would bring some experts on our side, you would bring some experts on your side, and then we would do in principle decision within, well, normally we try within 7 days, if this is something we want to follow or not. Yeah? And if we say no, we try to give at least a very useful feedback and reasonable feedback that you have also something as a takeaway, whatever you do with the takeaway. But from our thing, we see it's our duty to share at least transparently our view. Doesn't mean that our view is always right. The future will show.
Okay.
What I can always recommend, or what I recommend is, if you as a company start really, I think the previous person said it, really take the risk, go into it, try really with your full passion to drive it. A lot of things is not really about the idea. A lot of things is really about the execution, bring it to something tangible. So not bring it away from the slide point of view to a product point of view, which you really can see the client's value of it. I think the sooner you get that point, the sooner the moment of truth is achieved and gives further confidence to build on top of that. Yeah. So I think this is the most important thing.
Great. Georg, I already see the other panelists, so we have to keep it short.
I'll be fast.
Thank you.
Right. So to share as an experience with corporates and with startups, I think it is incredibly important to have a team and a process, because 90% of the projects wouldn't have happened, and 100% of the projects we did would have failed if we didn't have a team and a process. That also brings me to how can I be reached? I can be reached under my email, but the easiest is actually with Creators Expedition. We sort of have a launching place to connect to.
Great, thanks. And Daniela, last but not least, of course.
Just get in touch. Email, LinkedIn is the easiest way.
Really? Okay, then add all the people here today on LinkedIn. Then you can write them directly. Okay, so I just want to share with all the people who are here with us today that we also have at AWS a matchmaking service. It's called Industry Startup Net. We have like 240 corporates and SMEs on board who are willing to collaborate. So for all the spin-offs and startups out there, it's free of charge, of course. And we approximately present 100 startups and spin-offs per year to our network. And please just, also write me on LinkedIn. But the more easy way is if you register on www.awsconnect.at, awsconnect.at, and then you can get in touch directly. So, okay, enough with self-promotion. Thank you so much to my great panelists. Thank you for being so active on the panel and for sharing your insights. It was really a pleasure to host this panel, and of course also Thank you to the team of the Spin-off Austria conference, and I give back to the studio. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Karina.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Karina, and big thanks to our sponsors, AVL, Erste Bank und Sparkassen, as well as Merkur Versicherung to